All right, guys, this is going to be our second day with Excel, so we'll get a little bit more in depth as far as that goes. So first thing, let's go ahead and talk about how we insert a header or footer. So if I'm going to insert something, the first thing I need to identify is which tab I think it's going to be under, right? So I'm going to insert something, so it's probably going to be the Insert tab, right? So I can click on Insert, okay, and then if I go down, there's tables, illustrations. If we go all the way to the right under the text group, we have the header and footer option. Okay, so I can click Insert Header and Footer. It's going to automatically insert a header and footer on whichever page I was on, which happened to be the second side of the printable page. Okay, and then if I want to go down to the footer, I can either scroll down manually, right, or I can also click, well, I've got to click back into the header and footer option to get this design tab, and then I can click Go to Footer, and it'll automatically go down there. And then I have a couple different options, right? I can manually type things in to the different boxes. I also have different options like file path, sheet name, etc., things like that. So let's go ahead and get back to a normal view. So I'm gonna click on view, gotta click out of the box, and then let's just go to a normal view. Okay, so header and footer we got. Next thing, I also have the option of changing the alignment of my text. Right now you can see everything's aligned center, right? Or most everything is aligned center. Actually, maybe it's not. I guess it depends on where you're looking at. But looking at this first column, everything's aligned center. Okay, so if I wanted to change that, I can go to the Home tab, and then over in the alignment group, right, because I'm changing the alignment, I can choose to go align left, right, middle. I also can go align it to the top or to the bottom. It's kind of hard to see, but I'll show you guys that. So for instance, if I want this to be aligned to the top, right, I can have that option as well. All right, the other thing I can change is the formatting within the numbers, right? So right now I have these numbers and they're related to the high school that I teach at, the volleyball, right? So this is West Jordan High School's volleyball stats. Now I can actually change these numbers to whatever I need to as far as the formatting goes. So I stay on the Home tab, go over to this number group, click that drop down, and I can actually choose, let's say, for instance, we're doing some sort of dollars, right? So I can actually change it so those numbers pop up as dollars now, okay? Now, something that sometimes happens, right, is you can see right here, whoever this player is, she plays two numbers. She plays 10 and 16. So when I type in 10/16, Excel's automatically saying, hey, that's a date. So I'm going to change it to a date, right? So if I wanted to change that, I'd click on that box. I can go to the number group, one we were just on, and then I actually can go to more number formats and I can see all these different things. I'm going to change it back to text, okay? And then when I type in 10/16, it stays, right? So it's not changing it to a date because I went and changed that number format. All right, so that's how you would change a number format. Next thing we're going to cover is conditional formatting. All right, so that is basically where we tell Excel if a number meets a certain criteria, I want it to be highlighted. So let's look at, we'll say kill percentage, right? That's an important stat in volleyball. So I can select this entire row, okay, and then I'm going to go on the Home tab over to the conditional formatting, which is under the styles group, drop down, and now I have a couple different options. One of the more commonly used ones is the top bottom rules. Okay, so I can actually, so let's say I want to see everyone who's above average in their hitting percentage, or kill percentage, I should say. And then I can change the color. It's a good stat, so maybe I want to change it to green. So now I can see which players are hitting above that certain percent, right? The top 10%. Or I guess above average is what I chose. Now this can be very beneficial. When I was at Target, it was very helpful because sometimes you'll get a lot of data that you're trying to look at, and it's hard to kind of get your eyes grasp on certain things. So this option lets you choose the top percentages, above 10%, top 10%, whatever that looks like. Okay. And the other option that we have, well, let's say we want to clear that rule, right? Again, we're on the Home tab, still under conditional formatting. I have clear rules, and I can just clear rules from the entire sheet if I would like. Okay, and then also now I can actually look for specific things in my document. So highlight cell rules is how you would do like specific things, or if you want to put a specific number in, right? So what I use this for instance, when I was at Target, is when I would create my schedule, I would change this to anytime I put off, I would change it to custom format and do a fill of like light gray. Okay. So now anytime this cell or anytime this document sees the word off, oh, that didn't work. One sec, let's see, why is that not working? Okay, I figured out what happened. So I was only selected on that one cell. If I want to apply that rule to the entire document, I need to actually select the entire document. And then when I do conditional formatting, highlight rules equal to, now I can change it. So like, let's say anytime I type the word off, I want it to be a red text, right? So now when I type in off, it's going to automatically apply that format, okay? So that can be used, for instance, if you're trying to find a specific person or whatnot, you can actually change that to what you need. Okay, last thing on this sheet before we move on to the next one is when we want to freeze the panes. Okay, so when I scroll down, now when I'm looking at these numbers, I have no idea, right? Like I have no idea which row is which. So what I want to do is I want to actually go to the View tab, okay, because we're going to change the viewing of the document. And then over under the Window group, I have the Freeze Panes option. I can click Freeze Panes, okay? And now it's going to freeze whatever panes are above that document, okay? So another option is you can do Freeze Top Row. It just depends on how many rows you're trying to freeze. But if I do the Freeze Top Row, now I can scroll down and this top row is not moving at all. So I can keep track of which number is which. Okay, so that's a very practical use for the freeze for the freeze pane. And then again, if I want to get rid of it, go to View, Windows Group, Freeze Panes, and then I can unfreeze the panes. Okay, so let's move on to the next section right here. Okay, so I pre-created this. The sandbar is where I play sand volleyball. Okay, so with that, I just kind of created a fake budget sheet. This isn't their real numbers. I don't know what their real numbers are, but there's a couple things we're going to cover right now. So right now, in A1, I have this long, right? I have this long sentence, right? It's a title. So in order to merge it, I need to select which cells I want. So I need to click in the middle of the cell, click and drag. Let's say I wanted to go all the way to E1, okay? And then I go to the Home tab, and I have this Merge and Center option. So when I click that Merge and Center, it automatically makes it so all these cells are one cell. So that helps because instead of dragging it all the way over, right, like maybe you'd need to do, you're able to create different levels and you're not messing with the information below. Okay, so now what we're going to look at is how to do formulas and how to repeat patterns. Okay, so we've done formulas before, so let's just go and review that. Let's see if you guys remember which button is to draw upon a formula. I guess the call sign is what I called it. It's going to be that equal sign, right? So when I do equals, now I can do a manual formula if I want. So what we're going to do is we're going to do what we sell it for or how much money we make minus what it cost us. Okay, so we sold, let's say when we do a 2 versus 2 tournament, we make $500, but it costs us $300 to prep everything and have employees working. Okay, so then when I hit enter, it calculates my profit for me. Now now what I could do is I could just go and do that formula for every single one, right, if I wanted. But the easiest thing, and Excel's really smart at this, right? I have this little option right here where I can actually just fill the exact same formula and it copies down the line. So when I click in here, you see I have C5 and B5. When I click into this next box, it automatically was smart enough to figure out, oh, he went down a line, so I'm just going to copy the formula down one line, C6, B6, right? And then if I want to insert a max function, right, I can do equals max. I want to see the max dollar amount, right? And then I need to select up here. So it tells me $700. So the 4 versus 4 league is what makes me the most money. The other thing I want to touch on is if you want to use what's called an absolute, Okay, so that, I'm trying to think of a good example for that, but let's say for whatever reason, I always want the number to be minus whatever my profit is to be minus from my overhead costs, right? So let's just say I pay $1,500 a month, okay? And I always want my profit to be minus from that exact number. What I would do, right? So let's say I go equal, I want this number always. So I'm going to click on this number minus whatever this is, right? Because I'm always going to be minusing my profit. And now what I can actually do is I can put the dollar sign, which is the absolute, in front of the A and in front of the 14. And now my formula will always reference this exact cell. It's not going to ever change, right? So if I hit enter, right, $1,300, and then I can copy this formula down, okay? And you can see in each formula, it doesn't change. The A14 is always the same. Okay, so that is considered the absolute sign, aka the dollar sign. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the last sheet we're going to look at. All right, so with this sheet, we're going to look at what it's like to sort things. Okay, we need to figure out how to sort. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select the data that I want to sort. Okay, so you just click and drag from cell A1 down to cell C7. I'm going to come over to this sort and filter button, which is on the home tab, right? Going over to the editing group, we have sort and filter. And then custom sort is what we're going to choose this first time. I'm going to delete this first level. Okay, so when you do a custom sort, you can add different levels. Excuse me. Okay, so right now when I click this drop down, you see it says column A, column B, column C. If we click this option right here that says my data has headers, it's going to actually recognize that these are headers. And so now I can actually sort by the name of the header. Okay, so let's say I want to sort by last name first, and I want to do, let's just say ascending, right? So from Z to A, right? If I click sort, it's going to sort by last name from Z to A. But now let's say I want to add another level. So go back to that sort and filter. We'll do custom sort. We're going to add a level, and let's do the second thing by state, and we'll go A to Z. Okay, I obviously didn't enter data very accurately, but what would happen is it would first sort by last name, and then from there it would sort by state. Okay, so like on the test, it might ask you to do a multi-level sort, and that's how you do that, right? The custom sort, and then I can actually add different levels to my sorting. Okay, so that's it for this lecture. Hopefully, you guys learned a couple things that'll help you with your homework and change your lives forever.